Hear ye. There's more trash horror movies in cinemas. I've always been very vocal about how bad I think horror movies are getting nowadays. I think for the most part they're just cheaply made, loud-ass jump scare fests, which are just critically panned all the time. Of course there are a few exceptions. Last year we had Talk to Me, and I was a fan of the FNAF movie. But apart from those couple pieces of gold, for the most part, horror movies are just trash. For every Get Out...
Get out. Sorry, man.
Okay.
Get out!
we get Night Swim. For every The Invisible Man... we get The Nun 2. And there's no greater studio that's causing the downfall of horror more quicker than Blumhouse. Blumhouse is one of those production companies where I relate to Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And Blumhouse is a box of chocolates because you do not know the quality of the film that you're getting. They have released some absolute bangers like Get Out, The Invisible Man, Us, heck, even non-horror films like Whiplash. But then they release stuff like Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, Night Swim, and on Friday they decided to release Imaginary.
But it was just my imagination.
Now when I saw the trailer for Imaginary, I was thinking to myself, another generic ass horror movie that's going to be a loud jump scare fest. Can't wait for this, whoopie-doo, more quality. But to be fair, it did look kind of interesting, so I had a little tiny bit of hope that it might be good. And yesterday I walked into the cinema with that little tiny hope hanging by a thread. The movie started, I watched it all, and I can sadly confirm that Imaginary is exactly what you think it is. Another mindless jump scare fest. I will give it this. It's better than Night Swim. Night Swim was just really boring. Imaginary is a so bad it's good movie many times. I'm going to get my positives out of the way now. I like the concept. I think the concept of an evil imaginary friend that wants to take children away is interesting. I feel, if done right, you could create a really effective horror movie. So I've got no problem with the concept whatsoever. I also like some of the themes as well, like themes of neglect, and also like how they showcase how children will deal with like the loss of a parent or not seeing them again. I feel they incorporated that into the movie fairly well for the most part. I think the film's directed pretty nicely. There's some nice shots, camera movements are all pretty good. I also did like the music in some parts. I've always been a fan of like Jack in the Box style music in horror movies. I think it's really effective at times, especially in this. And also I think the performances are overall pretty solid. DeWanda Wise is pretty good in this movie. You could tell she really tried. And surprisingly, the child acting from the young actress is pretty good as well. She's alright. But that's where my positives end. I'm basically going to do what I did with like The Exorcist Believer, where I basically just go through the entire movie. So let's get straight into it and tell you how dumb this really gets. So Imaginary follows this family, and our main character is Jessica. She has a husband who recently left his ex because she had mental problems. And he has two daughters, an older sister and a younger sister. And Jessica decides to move back to her childhood home when her dad goes into a hospital. And yes, she lives there, she brings a whole family there, and they basically settle in. Now Alice, who's the little daughter, goes down to the basement and sees a little teddy bear, and she names it Chauncey. Now Alice and Chauncey are now best friends, and the parents think nothing of it. They just think Alice has created a nice imaginary friend to deal with the trauma, and it's all going very well for them. And one day the dad leaves for a tour. By the way, apparently this guy's a musician, and it's never established. And also when he leaves, he just never comes back. That's it. He's just gone. The actor just dipped. And after he leaves, this is where the movie starts getting a bit weird. Very, very weird. So Alice says that she's doing the scavenger hunt with Chauncey. And she needs different things. She needs something that makes her smile, something happy, a paintbrush, a bowl for some reason. But then it also says facial fear, which is bugs. So she keeps collecting bugs. So she's doing her scavenger hunt. And Jessica, the mother, goes to a mental hospital to see her dad. And she kind of hates her dad because he just changed all of a sudden. She doesn't know why. He's just acting weird. And remember this because it's very important for later. So she's upset. She blames her dad. She's upset. She doesn't know what's going on whatsoever. But back at home, the older sister has that cliche plot line with the guy that she likes and next door. And all he's there for is a scare. And that's basically his whole involvement. He comes in, he tries to get the older sister to do drugs and drink. And he smashes an alcohol bottle. And Alice doesn't like this. And so doesn't Chauncey. And this is where we get our first really laughable moment. You see Chauncey the bear sitting nicely. Camera pans up to see the guy go upstairs. Pans down. And Chauncey's just turned round. They try so hard to make this little teddy bear scary. It just doesn't work whatsoever. Whatsoever. So the guy goes upstairs to get some towels. And Chauncey's messing around with him. And this is where we get the good use of that Jack in the Box style music. And then it ends off with the jump scare. And this is where bad editing comes in. The whole scene revolves around the pulley string on the back of Chauncey. And it's on the floor. And he keeps, like, dragging the bear towards the guy at the end of this big hallway. And it just goes like, zoom straight towards him and then, blah! That's it. A straight cut off for a jump scare. An evil giant bear pops out. And it's just the weirdest cut. It goes, bleh! Like, there's no, like, ending, soothe. And there's a lot of things like that. There's some weird editing in this movie. It's so obvious that things were cut out just so the runtime could be shorter. But anyway, the guy gets scared and he goes home. Apparently the drugs aren't even like Viagra or something like that. But anyway, you don't care. So then Jessica, the mother, comes home and she sees the scavenger hunt list. She turns it around and sees one of the things, something that hurts. And she looks outside and she sees Alice rip off like a panel off the fence with a very sharp nail. And she is about to slam her hand on it and stab herself. But just before she does that, Jessica comes out and pushes it away out of nowhere, saving her. So then they get Alice's therapist sort of thing, child support worker. And this is where the little daughter's acting chops really do shine. She has this bit where she shouts at Chauncey. This scene is kind of ruined though because they do a really terrible voice for Chauncey. It's basically the child actress trying to sound evil. But it just doesn't work. It sounds really stupid. But when Alice is talking normally, the actress does a pretty good job.
Maybe we shouldn't play together anymore, Chauncey. Maybe we shouldn't be friends. No.
So the therapist sees this, she gets disturbed. And then she tells Jessica that she's seen stuff like this before with other patients. Shows a video of a guy who had an imaginary friend. Turns out this friend told this little boy to chop off his thumb. Which is very nice. So that happens. And then we get to the weirdest part of this movie. Jessica says, oh, I'm going to destroy the bear. I'm going to burn it. End it all. But then the therapist goes, what bear? What are you talking about? And she asks the older sister and she says, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she looks at like videos and photos of her phone because earlier she took a video of her of Alice having a tea party with Chauncey. But the bear's not there. And she looks at the recording of the therapy session. The bear was in the room, but he's not there in the video. So what's happened? And then we cut upstairs to Alice, who says sorry to Chauncey for shouting at him. And then Chauncey's like, prove your worth. And he gives her the scavenger hunt list again. I will say, by the way, I do think the little animatronic bear was quite cool. I think they did a pretty good job with that. But that's all I'm going to say good about that bear. They try so hard to make it terrifying. But it just doesn't work. And also it's so obvious that they're using different versions of the bear. So many times in scenes, they cut to the bear, cut away, And then it's just so obvious that it's a different model. So it's like they didn't even try to hide it. It was just so idiotic and lazy. So then Alice goes downstairs. She has all her stuff from the scavenger hunt and Chauncey. And she starts painting a giant blue square on the wall in the basement. And Jessica and the older sister go downstairs and find that she's just disappeared. She's nowhere to be seen. So then they go looking for her. And then the older sister runs into the obligatory old woman who has experience with demons and stuff. That cliche thing. And she says like, oh, it's an imaginary friend. And it was actually Jessica's imaginary friend when she was younger. And because that Jessica grown up, he craved that creativity and imagination that now he's taking Alice. That's the whole monster's motivation. And now, get ready for this, because this is where the movie gets real stupid. So Jessica does the scavenger hunt again to get to the door. And she stabs herself in the hand. Real pain, something that hurts. And then the door opens. So Jessica, the older sister, and the old lady go through. And we go to this awful looking imagination place. Like the walls are going all over the place. They're doing swirls. There's so many doors. It's got this awful flipping blue tint. It looks terrible. We're basically just travelling to another realm out of nowhere. It came out of literally nowhere, and it was just hilarious. So basically this is where creativity comes to life. Anything can happen. And the older woman gets possessed by this, and it seems like she traps Jessica and the older sister in the imagination world. And she goes mad saying, "We can do whatever we want." And then we get to the funniest part of this movie. There's like a corridor of doors, and she's like shouting, and the door she stands next to, it opens, and this giant bare hand. This giant bare hand, like, grabs her and drags her in slowly. So obviously a puppet. Shuts the door, and then you can tell it eats her because she's like, ah, ah. I honestly nearly wet myself with that scene. So Jessica and the older sister run around looking for Alice. And Jessica sees like a little paint hole. And it shows her past. And it's revealed that when she was younger, her imaginary friend tried to kidnap her. But her father tried to save her. And the reason why her father has just gone mad now is because the friend produced him with so much creativity and knowledge that basically his brain's just fried. So basically the monster can give brain tumours now or something. I don't know. It's just come out of nowhere. But yeah, that's happened. So she forgives her dad for that. And then we get another horror scene where the older sister gets trapped in a room. And we see a demon-like version of Alice in the room. And then we see the full monstrosity of the real-life Chauncey Bear. Basically in a guy in a makeshift Halloween costume. It looks so weird. It looks like a guy who just wants to piss around on Halloween. He created it in his basement in like an hour. It looked absolutely terrible. It wasn't scary whatsoever. It looked so bad. That's the main problem with this movie. It takes itself way too seriously. If this was very self-aware, knew it was stupid, and had fun, I maybe would have enjoyed it a lot more as a movie. But anyway, the older sister gets saved, and then Jessica and her go into a different room where they find Alice at her old flat. And then Alice and the older sister's real mother comes out saying, "Don't leave, we can stay, we can be happy together, that's all we want for you." And then Jessica realises, maybe we can rip stuff up and create a door. So there's just, conveniently, a lot of really dark blue stuff all over this room. And she, like, rips it all apart and makes, like, a square door like Alice did earlier in the film to get to the imagination realm. But the real mother doesn't like this. And it turns out that she's the imaginary friend And you ever seen that movie called One Missed Call? And like the poster with like the giant black eyes, it looks stupid. Well, they basically do that in this movie as well. Just these terrible looking big black eyes. It looks awful. The CGI looked terrible. Not scary whatsoever in the slightest. So then Jessica fights off the imaginary friend, and it looks like that she's gotten back safe and sound with her daughters. But then, we go to the mental hospital with the dad. She's like reading her story, but then it turns out this is all a trick. Jessica's still in the imagination realm, and everyone is turning out to be the imaginary friend. And they beg her, "Don't leave, stay, stay, and we won't harm Alice and her older sister." So she agrees, and then the older sister just comes out of nowhere and beats them over the head with a sledgehammer. And then they escape, and then they shut the door. The end. At least that's what I thought anyway. Then they go to a hospital, and then they see a teddy bear, which isn't Chauncey Bear, but he looks similar. They get scared, they walk out. And then it's revealed that the little kid that was in there, he's basically going through what Alice is going through. He's doing a scavenger hunt with his imaginary friend. We see Chauncey Bear again. And that's the end of the movie. So basically, it's kind of leaving it open for sequels.
Let's just hold on. No, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. No.
So yeah, that's imaginary. It was ridiculous, especially towards the end. I'm not even doing the movie justice with that explanation. I truly think there are some really funny moments in this movie. So many times, I was laughing my head off, and I was the only one laughing my head off. I had a great time with this movie. Certainly one of those so bad it's good movies. But I wouldn't suggest supporting it. Wait till it comes out on streaming or home media. Just wait, don't support it, because I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing these cheap-ass horror movies making money. So yeah, Imaginary is certainly entertaining, just not in the ways that it wants to be. But for the main good parts, got an interesting concept, build-ups to the scares are fine in some instances, it's well directed, the music's fine, the performances for the most part are pretty solid, but it's just really bad. It's a fun bad movie. I'm definitely watching this again sometime, definitely. So Imaginary, it's another dumb generic horror movie. That's a fun bad movie this time. And it's going to get a 3 out of 10 from me. 3 out of 10, I think that's a very fair score for it. But Blumhouse, man, come on. Let's get some good horror movies out again. Because I'm getting sick and tired of seeing these types of movies now. And guys, that's it for the end of this review. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have seen Imaginary, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know. And also, I hope you like the new camera angle as well. Just thought I'd have a little bit of a change for once. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Have a good day. And see you later.